Say, for example, Jim, you were handed the WWE. What would be the interesting move?
Okay.
The board of directors will love that. What would be the first three things you would do?
Oh, good Lord. I guess if I was handed the WWE today, the first three things that I would do is study the whole thing to figure out what to do. There's almost no way to answer that question because, for one thing, the things that I might do might not be the things that would make the most money these days. Because, as we've mentioned, for the kind of people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those kind of people like. I don't know. We can put the toothpaste back in the tube and you can suddenly start doing this sports based, even with any budget at this point. It would take mass hypnosis or some type of mind drug sent up into the clouds to go back and do pro wrestling. And that's what I do. So for sports entertainment, I would try to, I think in any event and in any case, try to weed out the talent as far as not just who's the indie darling or who blah, 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 but the guys that work hard and the guys that are dedicated and the guys that overachieve and overexcel and push themselves and maybe the ones that, sit around or whatever. That's always something you need to do in a wrestling company. Examine everything about the business and figure out if there's a way to do it better. But they're so big and they're so diversified now that, not only do I not know how half of their revenue streams are accomplished these days, but I am too old and have too little fucking care to learn. So unless we could figure out some way to turn back the hands of the clock where you could still manipulate people's emotions and get them involved in the moment of the contest and have them jumping up and down and yelling and screaming and really caring again, instead of knowing that it's all a performance that they really shouldn't go too deep on, I'm not motivated.
But if you were put in charge of, let's say, the wrestling content, and you have to run into that wall of the problem where the television revenue is such a big driver of business for the company, yet the amount of television you have to produce is counterproductive to the actual product. How do you deal with that? If you knew you had to produce 3 hours of TV every Monday, another 2 hours the next day, and various other shows throughout the week, how do you deal with that now? Because it's one thing when you're there and you're producing a 1 hour live show on Monday, but with all of this TV time to fill, how do you deal with that knowing that you can't do much because of the money it's bringing in?
Well, you obviously, and they do want to have more talent, but gee, many Christ, they rush through the wrestling so that they can talk because people are convinced that the talk is the story and people want the story. The story can be in the ring, and every match doesn't have to tell a story because sometimes, especially with the rights fees that they're getting and the fact that the ratings may be important, but they're already locked in a contract. Good God, just send some people out to get over and beat some people up and try to establish, instead of just running people onto the roster, putting them in angles that quick, having everybody talking about everything. That was one thing Shitstain did even back then, was he always took pride on the fact I had something for everybody on the roster. Everybody on the roster was doing interviews and in an angle, and that's why nothing meant shit. I think they ought to have more segments that take up time to just get people over by having them beat some more fucking people instead of drama. And that would automatically, even with same size roster, without making the television show shitty. I'm not talking about 10-minute squash matches. I'm talking about get some more guys that can work, bring some more up from NXT, whatever the fuck, and put some guys out there. But some of the roster's job is just to have a good match and get their ass kicked. And sometimes you just send some guys out to do that. And don't overwrite the thing and give guys more time to get over, and don't fucking overly goddamn manipulate their gimmicks or their characters or whatever they're called these days. Kind of let them evolve a little bit more naturally. I've tried to watch the when WrestleMania and the stuff that we've reported on for the show, and everything's just too clean and everything's too shiny, and there's shit blowing up all over the place, and there's pyro and there's lights. I don't even know if it's dirty looking enough to be taken seriously anymore. It doesn't have the grit of a UFC presentation, and UFC has some of the finest fucking production in the world as far as television today, but it still looks, I mean, it's like a goddamn comic book come to life. All I've seen is New Day throwing fucking cereal in the air and confetti. I'm like, what the fuck? I'd dirty the shit up a little bit and take some sandpaper to it and rough their cheeks up.
That's where we are, though. You had the golden age of wrestling. I guess you could say the silver age of wrestling. This is the what the fuck era of wrestling.